The original proof? Wonderful. Okay, so just to kind of summarize here, we have a couple. We're going to start with the PDF kind of deliverable-based proofs. This is the original proof that we started from the initial conversation last time we were all together. I just want to make sure everybody has visibility on that. And I'm going to slowly scroll through the updates, the updated versions. Okay, the floor is open. If people have comments, feedback, etc., by all means, just let me know when to stop. So the first iteration update obviously has a good bit more info, more white space, is using almost like a puzzle-based format in the center when it comes to the some of our values. Okay, actually, it looks like the internals here are just explaining the icons or the design work that was done, just to bring some context to them. And then our values are kind of dispersed in between with the explanation under it. So that's the first one. Any comments about the first proof?
No, I think it's better than the first one, but the others are yet to come.
Second update. And then here's number 3. And I think that's where we stand. We'll go through them one more time, and then we'll go around the room. Everyone can pick a favorite, and we'll discuss.
Aren't we missing this one? Is that our first one? That was the first one.
Once again, so everybody can see, this was the original.
There we go. That's the original. That's what we had before. Yeah.
And we're looking for a static piece, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
And then once we get through this, we'll move over to the website those are the interactive ones. Okay, so number 1, we have the puzzle proof. That's this one. Number 2, we have the blend proof. And number 3, we have the arrow proof. Just instinctually, based on just visual aesthetic, just going to draw straws here. How many people favor the arrow proof?
I do.
Okay.
They each have very unique things to offer.
Yeah. This is the one that's going to be on our website though, right? This is what we're going to be using? No?
No, this is the
Okay.
PDF.
Yeah, this will be.
Okay. This is printed materials.
Correct.
Then for printed materials. I say no to this one.
Okay, so we have one that favors this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would also like to vote for the arrow proof as well. I like something that is not as busy and simple, and this one meets that criteria for me.
Great. Okay. Next is the blend proof.
We didn't get Chris's opinion. I like the way that we're doing this. Everybody comment on each one as we go along. Chris, do you have anything to add to number 1?
I do like it.
Okay.
I like,
Number two,
I like that one, the first one, because it's clean and crisp. And on a white sheet, the information pops out really cleanly. The colors associate very clearly with the icon and the spot. It's different than I would have expected, but I can live with this one.
Okay.
Sorry, now we're going to the second one.
You're okay. Okay, number two is the blend proof. Probably most aligned with the initial proof that we saw.
I like this one.
Okay.
It captures my eye anyway, and as you're going through paper, that one really stands out. As we were scrolling through all of them, this one is what caught my eye immediately.
Will there ever be a time when we have to render these in black and white? Or will there be a black and white option? Because that kind of triggers some of how we handle the shadings of colors.
Yep.
I mean, I like the second one that brings the color piece into it more strongly. I do worry about how that would translate into other, if somebody's gonna make a copy of it and send it to somebody, does it just go gray?
Yeah, I would definitely keep that in mind as we go through these, just the transferability of each of them, right? Being able to quickly insert or align it with something else. Like this is something we don't have full control over. The website we do have full control over and can really kind of go deep in some of the complexity and colors and etc. But sometimes, you hand somebody something and that's really it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments on the blend proof? Manager Baki, thoughts? Like it? Don't like it?
Again, the arrow proof is what I like because it's simple and easy to read. It's the other proofs are too busy for my eye.
Okay. Manager Loth?
I agree. I mean, I think if we want to get cute with the website version, we can. I just think like the arrow proof is going to be the most versatile, and I like how small the little icons are. They are more subtle than the other two, and it's very word heavy, which I think is important if you're looking at for a static infographic.
Okay. And then the puzzle proof.
I was just going to say, if I had to pick between the two more intricate static versions, this would be preferable to me over the blended one, but I still think from a functionality standpoint, the arrow proof is my favorite.
Okay.
I found this puzzle proof to be really fascinating. But as I was working around it, the narrative is kind of offset, and that was a little disconcerting to figure out how these things align. So, gosh, if I'm confused, I love the concept of the puzzle, how it all ties together. It's really a cool effect they've used there to make this work. The way things lined up made me a little bit not as comfortable as was with the first one. The first one was just clear.
Okay.
I wasn't a fan of this one for a number of reasons, so I would
Okay.
say no to this one.
Can we dismiss this one? All agree on that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we keep this objective, we had three kind of in favor of the arrow proof, the simplicity of it, it's transferable, it's a good infographic that could integrate with endless amounts of things. The colors are there. It's cyclical, meaning nothing is more important. Like it's just, it has good flow and it's clean and crisp. We just We
I
might
also
have-
like that the titles and
No, you're okay. Go ahead.
sorry, Yanni, I was just gonna say that I think the balance of the titles of the values and then the descriptions are more balanced in this one, whereas the other one, the bolded titles and the very small descriptions make it a little bit less practical for me.
Okay.
Well, I think we have a winner here, so.
Okay.
It got the majority of the yeses.
Are we, any suggested changes, refinements, or are we can all live with this? This feels good. We can move on here.
I think it's pretty clear we can move on, unless somebody has another comment, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, I like the arrows in the fact that it is a circle, like the circle of life.
Great.
I blew mine up to where it would, how it would sit on an 8.5 by 11 page, and it's pretty readable. So
Okay.
that's a nice thing.
Okay. So arrow
Frank,
proof.
did you have something to add? Okay,
Okay. Arrow proof is the choice. Sounds like that's what we're moving forward with.
okay,
Now to the more interactive displays of our values. These are on our website. It's like there's 3 different versions. It seems like all of the feedback was kind of taken into consideration.
you didn't print these, did you?
This I did not know.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, so we'll go top to bottom. Number 1, right? Still maintaining that kind of cyclical presentation. As you kind of move your cursor over each of our values, the center displays the description associated with it. It is very much dependent on the colors, right? To make sure that you have that alignment between the top line value and its description. Just go down the room, and I'm going to start with top of my screen. Manager Baki, thoughts, comments, feedback? Yes, no?
As I look at all 3, I'm just wondering, would the heading that's at the very top of the screen be above each of the other examples as well? Because they're not here. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, I think, and again, this is just an assumption. Either way, I'm sure it could be, but I think that this is just, this is essentially almost just the header for the landing page. Right?
Okay.
And everything else is meant to be kind of absorbed as its own contained thing without that. That's a part of the page, not a part of the graphic.
Got it. Yeah, I do like this one. I'm not convinced this is the one, but I do like it. I like the way it interacts and how you can just move your cursor around and light up the screen with the different colors and the different values.
Sure. And they do cycle independent of moving your cursor. So just
Can you
so
explain that? What do you mean by that?
So if I mean I'm 90% sure that it's gonna happen again. But as I've had this kind of pulled up on one of my screens, I've seen it just cycle through each of these without me actually putting my cursor on it after a set
okay.
period of time.
I see. Nice.
Manager Taves, feedback?
I'm playing with it.
Okay.
I like the little touch where when you move to the next one, it makes a transition from one color to the next instead of just snapping to it.
Sure.
It shows a little bit more sensitivity to the color and the reactions. Yeah, I need to see other ones. This works. There's no question about that.
Okay. Manager Loth?
I'm very much in favor of this top one here. The middle one, when I was playing with it, I wasn't quite sure exactly where to hover my mouse and realize that the target is fairly small to get it to pop the descriptions up or the details, and the way that it just comes up in a block isn't as cohesive as the top one, I guess. Again, the top one is not as fancy, but it's very simple, and the words take the priority here when you're looking at it versus some of the other, you know, the icons and the puzzle pieces are just less interactive. So, and I don't like the block format. I still think it makes it somewhat hierarchical, and I think we're trying to make it appear that there isn't really one that is more important than the next.
Manager Anderson?
Yes, Manager Anderson. Excuse me. Administrator Kenny. I was just looking at my emails going, oh, where's this email? Go ahead.
Madam President, Manager Baki, I kind of had the same thing, about, I like that top one, but but the one thing I liked about the block one is how those squares flip. And I wonder if those circles could flip in some way at the top, that would make that top one just feel a little bit more interactive in some way. So because right now it changes colors a little bit, and I don't know exactly what that would look like, but kind of largely the same thing. It was just it's nice, but it's not.
It's pretty dull for me. If we go to the next two down from this one,
Oh, thank you, Emily, for that note.
what is it? The first and third, oops. What
This
did your
one?
note say?
Yeah, I'll just note that Pinnacle did note this, and I pulled it up on my phone. The first one and the third one work best if you're looking at it on your phone. The second one, as it stands, is not very good for mobile. So if people like that one, we might have to rework it for mobile. Just a note.
Yeah, I like that third one. I think it's got the color pop that you need when you're on the website. And I like that flipping ability as well. It gives it motion.
Okay. Second
that-
one,
That,
are
first-
we, is there?
Yeah, I
sounds
didn't
like
care for that
nobody
one as
really
much.
liked the second one. Is that true? Is that a
Yeah.
true statement?
That's my statement. How about the others? I'll just call them out. Manager Taves, what do you think about number 2?
It doesn't work on mobile.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I was able to figure out right away what's happening there, right, the way its actions are, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Okay,
I mean, of those three, then I guess I'm sorry to be old school, but the bottom one just kind of seems to work the best all the way around, and including on mobile. And we have to keep that in mind when we're building stuff.
right. Well, let's continue on with number 2. I'll put you down for number 3. Just doing a simple tally here. Who's next? Manager Baki?
I do not care for number 2. I appreciate the creativity and the work that went into it. But I am leaning towards the flipping blocks as well. I think, like Chris pointed out, we're not trying to have one have more weight over the other. And I think this one kind of presents it more in an equal fashion. And I like the action of the flipping of the different pages or different blocks.
Okay, Manager Lowe?
Do we have any idea what percentage from an analytics standpoint, how many people view a website from a mobile device versus a desktop?
Usually about 65 to 75%. And
That's what-
that is broad. That is not
Yeah,
data. That is just industry-wide data.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering if we had specifics on the watersheds analytics.
I'm gonna pull up the website really quickly and I'll see if I can pull that up.
If the board meetings is the primary use of the site, then probably it's desktop for us.
That's fair.
But I think for visitors, we really have to accommodate mobile for people that are looking from the outside in.
Mhm.
I did find the interactive on the first one on the mobile. It's just the center, the circle changes color when you tap it.
Okay.
Assuming that the analytics show that, you know, the majority of visitors are coming from a mobile device, I would lean towards the third version.
Okay. All right, that makes that one unanimous then.
Great.
So I think we have our choice selected there.
We're kind of going old school, folks.
I think this will look nice with our values and then our logo above it, sitting on a page. Like if
Yeah.
you kind of
With the
like-
boxes?
Yep, just sitting
Yeah.
independently. It's
It's
simple, it's effective, it's easy to understand and use. There's no unnecessary complexity to it. It's bold because it does lean into the color. Yeah, I definitely.
It's eye pleasing and eye catching because of the color, so I think that's great, and the motion is just an added bonus.
Yeah.
I like the fact too that you're not competing with other call outs. You're
Sure.
looking at each single one and that's all you have to read, and you can do that very quickly, so I like that.
Okay, great. So we're moving on here. So number 3, the boxes is unanimous. That will be how we present our values on the website.
Okay.
Look at us. This is great. Okay. Now, let's get into the meat of it here. I'm going to stop my screen share for a second, and then I'm going to pull up a document. I just want to kind of set the tone as we kind of, venture into this exercise. So the ask and the people that kind of took the time to go through this, I'm very grateful. But was to start to kind of think about the 10-year plan, right, in regards to macro initiatives and how do we start to prioritize them and see them in like a nice, linear, actionable plan. Okay. Eventually, we'll support that with metrics and data, regardless of what it is. We'll always find something to give us some kind of objective visibility on what progress looks like. Through that process, a couple key takeaways that I've noticed that are worth just mentioning to kind of start to paint the picture here a little bit. Number one, I'd like to just candidly state today is not about wordsmithing. Today is about alignment and prioritization and ensuring that whatever is on the list that we're going to slowly make our way through makes sense and is incredibly impactful, okay, and should be there. Now, again, just like anything else we've done, the more we can take away, the better. We want to keep this simple, yet impactful and as thorough as we possibly can without getting too noisy with it. Okay, so today is not about getting into the weeds and wordsmithing and making those changes. It's about staying as macro as we possibly can. The second thing to notice or to mention is a theme in a lot of what was kind of presented back to me is that we've been kind of like our North Star for a very long time has been water quality goals. And it sounds like we're starting to transition into a period of kind of maintenance on some of that over the course of the next decade, right? And really starting to think about what is that kind of new North Star? Is that maintained? Is it always water quality? Or is there something else that we can start to kind of use as a common thread through some of the things that we're going to discuss today? And just some examples of those that kind of stood out, right? Climate resilience, flood mitigation, greenway corridor, shoreline health, education, like all of these things are a part of this in some capacity. But again, it's really focusing on the why, right? Why are these important? And I want to make sure that we're always asking ourselves the purpose of doing something and ensuring that it aligns with our mission, our vision, and our values. Okay. There's different motivators. And just for an example, education, right? There's a ton of different reasons to educate the public. And just making sure that we have alignment on the why behind a lot of this. A struggle for me, candidly, as I started to kind of compartmentalize some of these, I'm going to share my screen now, was trying to figure out ways to start to categorize aspects of them. Okay, I know we have our buckets that we kind of, you know, operate within. I did my best to kind of leverage the ones that were there and made sense, and kind of start to align on some others to figure out how we can start to kind of group these together. It's easy to think about something from a macro perspective if you have categories that you can lean into. Okay? I'm always looking through a business lens. Think about any business. Every business has sales, marketing, financials, productivity, leadership, and recruiting. Those are the 5 they exist for everybody. We don't have the luxury to rely on something so simplified, but I do want everyone to keep that top of mind, is that these can change. Okay, and we need to kind of align and validate some of them. But what I did is we took everyone's kind of, you know, strategic plan suggestions in regards to initiative, staff included, from a meeting that was had back in September, and tried to distill those into some of these buckets and stay as macro as possible. A common theme is that some of us are on different kind of parallels in regards to the granularity and detail in which we're thinking through some of this. Manager Anderson and I think last meeting really kind of aligned on, you know, not getting into the weeds in regards to some of the things that we outsource to support us and give us those very clean, concise, incredibly detailed action plans, but to think about this more as a kind of a community facing perspective, but also as an organization in regards to just kind of how we operate. Okay, so some of the things that have come up, my big ones were water quality improvement and having initiatives that align with it, flood mitigation and climate resiliency, education and community outreach or in community engagement, strategic planning and governance, monitoring and data-driven decision-making, project operations and maintenance, and then regulatory. And then something that was suggested from a staff perspective is that there are some things that we have to do for compliance and regulatory reasons. They should be a part of this as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody about 3 to 4 minutes to just run your eyes through this and start to absorb it. And then we're going to start to go through it kind of bucket by bucket, line by line. And the goal here is to get alignment. Okay? If things need to be expanded upon, we can. If we can consolidate, we will consolidate. And if there's an added direction that's necessary to get buy-in from staff, that's okay too. This is I got a ton of data and insight. It's distilled into something that we can understand, read, and start to have conversations about. And that is where we stand.
Yanni, can you increase the size, please?
Yeah.
Did we receive this in advance of this meeting? Because I can't find it in my email, but I did have some computer problems. So I'm not sure if maybe I missed one or.
You did not.
Okay.
Emily, the staff and myself and Emily kind of worked over the last week and a half to be able to put this together. And again, it was my first independent swing at it based on everything that all of you had sent me, and then having some validation, some conversations with Emily to be able to get to.
Okay, well, can I just clarify something in your opening remarks?
Yeah.
I do take issue with the construct that you provided. It's always about water quality, always.
Okay.
And there's a difference between the immediate needs that we had when we started out, which was to take care of the water in a organized way and in a scientific way, which was following the flow. You know, the preference was, at the very beginning, was to work on this area that started the district, which was the Comfort Lake management area, because we have almost the entire city business area flowing down into the Sunrise River and then Comfort Lake. But I understood the logic in doing it in a different way so that we could take advantage of the gains from upstream. And so that's how we ended up with our 4 major subwatersheds, and then working from Bone Lake, you know, down to the end point, which is where we're at now. Now, along the way, what happens is that you're taking care of those highest pollution sources in each one of those steps as you go down. But that doesn't mean that what we're focusing on now is less important for water quality. What we're trying to build in is sustainability for generations to come. And that means that we take that broader look at climate change and how that's going to impact everything. And primarily where we're going to get that type of gain is when we start looking at the city's infrastructure. So that brings us back to the origin issue that we had with the start of the district. And so we're getting there. So I don't think that I agree with what you said at first. I don't. It's not these separate things and then all of a sudden we're going down a different road. We're on the
Sure.
same road.
Yeah,
And so I think there's a way to classify or aggregate our line items in our budget, because we have this separation already in the budget for these different areas. But we're coming to the point where we have to align them slightly differently, but they're all part of these major categories that we've been working with from the beginning. So I just wanted to clarify that, because we're not heading down a different road here.
And that was not, my goal was to not illude
Yeah.
what we are by any means. It's
Yeah.
that there was, if water quality is the constant and everything can be linked back to that in a very clean, concise manner, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly
Mhm.
fine. It's just making sure that we are on the same page. And that for someone that's either on the staff or in the public, right? How do we tie climate resiliency or climate change back to water quality?
Mhm.
Or flood mitigation, the same thing, okay?
Well,
So
I don't know about the other board meetings, but this isn't something I'm comfortable with, and Manager Baki alluded to this earlier. I'm not comfortable taking something that's this important and hearing it for the first time and then sitting down for 10 minutes and figuring out, you know, which way we want to go. I think that requires a lot more thinking time for
Sure.
us to be comfortable and come up with alternatives, you know, to what you're presenting tonight. So I think for me anyway, I think we'd be a heck of a lot more productive if we could take this home with us and then bring it up at the next meeting and then have some real solid thought process behind what we're doing and make recommendations for how we might realign some of our areas so that we still do what we've done when needed in the past, but the focus is more going to be shifting more toward the ecosystems and not the actual lake basins.
Okay, but and again, there's nothing on this that
Yeah.
was not provided from everyone on the board.
Mhm.
Like a lot of this, again, it's just distilled from that. Shouldn't be any surprises. It's just, again, thinking about this organization from a macro perspective. And it's not exclusively about this. It's about the new building and having alignment on what those steps look like. What is the prioritization of that? Is it a high priority, mid priority, low priority? And I know everything is a priority and everything is important, but we still need to be able to have conversations as a group around how do we prioritize our priorities and make sure that it can very concisely be conveyed to our staff, because we do have limited resources. We are working within a 40-hour work week, and we're always trying to align and maintain some level of progress with some of this, right? As other things start to make their way onto our plates. And this is a, you know, it's leveraged time. It's all of us here. I do agree that there is time to be able to take this away. I think taking a swing at this and going through this and at least just discussing from a category perspective and having alignment on that so we can actually go home, have time for ourselves to digest this and start to compartmentalize aspects of it, right, is going to be of value. But there's a lot here. There's a lot here. And some of them are very macro, some of them are very micro.
I would benefit from having a conversation regarding these, well, what you put together here, just having a conversation around it so we can get a better understanding of what we're dealing with. And then, like you suggested, having time to reflect on it and come back at our next meeting to
Sure.
perhaps put something together. But yeah, I'm all in favor of continuing on with what you have.
Okay. Any other comments?
I agree with what Manager Baki said. It's I think taking a quick run through of it to summarize and explain how this came together, so we can start to figure out how to process this would be helpful. But I too kind of need to cogitate on it a bit.
Sure.
Okay, proceed. Let's keep moving.
We're going to stay high level. We're going to go bucket by bucket or category by category. If there's
Okay.
things that are missing or things that need to be added or discussion about anything at all, please. Like, we're staying high level here. This is a two-part kind of thing. The first part is to just absorb it, discuss it, get some alignment on next steps, give you the ability to take it home, digest it, and really kind of, go deep onto it. And then next time we come together, be able to kind of make sense of it and turn it into something that's a bit more actionable. This is just a list. That's all it is. There's no context to a lot of it. Okay, so starting with water quality improvement. The way we're going to do this is you're going to get 2 to 3 minutes to read through each category. We're going to open the room and discuss, this makes sense, I understand this, if there's redundancies, if there can be any form of consolidation, or if there's something that we have an immense amount of buy-in on as an individual that's missing. So we're going to start with number 1. Can everybody see this okay?
Mhm.
Great. Okay. How many of these are in motion currently, that we are currently actively working on?
I would say the shoreline restoration and protection initiatives are a hot item right now, especially on Forest Lake, regarding the ice that has been pushing up and damaging shorelines.
Okay.
And it also affects the other lakes as well. I mean, it's certainly a
Sure.
hot topic right now.
Okay.
It's the shoreline restoration, Yanni, the one above that. Is that what
Oh,
you're marking?
Sorry about that. Okay.
No problem.
Anything else that is currently has action associated with it or has in the past?
What are the 9 priority lakes? I'm not sure I can come up with 9.
Madam Chair and Managers, they're the 9 priority lakes from the watershed management plan from the priority section. So, Moody Lake, Bone Lake, let's see if I can get them in order. Birch, School, Little Comfort, Shields, Keewatin, Forest, Comfort.
The next to the last one has some action going right now too with that farm along July Avenue. And the last one, we were working on that one too.
Are we in early stages with all of this? The three that were mentioned?
I don't know if they'd be early stages. They've been kind of ongoing to some, in some respects. But I think they kind of come to the forefront recently, more so.
Okay,
Well, the first one's been going for a long time and continues.
sure. And that's kind of my next question, is that some of these might have a defined completion metric, where we know it's been completed, it's done, it's checked off, we can move on. Others are going to be incredibly open-ended. Okay, and that's the other thing that I would love to be able to get some alignment on. Which of these are constants that are open-ended and will always be a part of it, of what we do, and others that are a bit more initiative-based that do have a beginning and an end. That's easy to define.
Well, I agree that everything in that blue box, water quality improvement is ongoing.
Mhm.
So all of them have to be checked.
Yeah.
And all of them have been done at various times.
Okay. Do we feel that there's anything missing from the kind of blue box here?
Well, the only thing that's not mentioned is the Sunrise River. And the Sunrise River has to be, it's part of the Comfort Lake Management District sub-watershed. But if we're going to call out things, we need to talk about the Sunrise River.
Okay.
Was there talk too about starting to look at groundwaters and tie that in with H&H modeling?
If we want to stick up in water quality improvement, that would be both groundwater and surface water.
Yeah.
And that would be a logical place to put it.
And it's just the quality of both of those in general, or is it like, is there more detail that I can add to that? Like, just give me a little
Well,
context.
I think Manager Taves has already, kind of mentioned in his comment that we've just completed a big redo of our H&H modeling, which is hydrology and, let's get the other one mixed up.
Hydraulics.
Hydraulics, yes. And so in that report, it shows us where the sensitive areas are for groundwater. And so that's hugely important in working with our cities and other LGUs on their plans for the future.
Okay.
So that's been completed, and the information is in the process of being shared by our partners and incorporating that into their planning, their long-term planning. But what we're trying to do, obviously, as the water experts, is steer them in the right direction so that we don't have them going into floodplains for developments, and they don't plan on building anything around these sensitive groundwater areas.
Okay. Back up to the Sunrise River any context on that, or any specific objective that we're pursuing, or is that? I just,
It's restoring it to its pre-development conditions.
Okay.
That's the underlying pin in everything we do, is to restore as close as we can get to pre-development conditions. And when you do that, you're working toward that sustainability as part of your mission.
Okay.
And so it could include a lot of things. It's,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Yep, that's
The
perfect.
Sunrise used to be a meandering river system, and it was straightened out in the 1930s and 40s, for agricultural purposes. And they became, it became a big ditch, basically, straight line ditch.
Okay. If we were to, and again, we're gonna go stay in high level here, okay? We've got a nice little drop down. We've got urgent, meaning 0 to 1 year, midterm 2 to 3, long term 3 to 5, and then 10 year. And honestly, I might have to add
Forever.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna make this ongoing. And I know you already answered that question, but do we truly believe that these are ongoing things that will always be a part of our planning process and our initiative / execution?
Is
Jackie,
that a
would-
question? Is that a
Yes,
question?
That is a question, yes. Or
Yes.
or can we align it with a shorter time frame with any of these in the water
Well,
quality?
it's been staged, again, very scientifically from the beginning, to go from the headwaters of the watershed down to, the end of the watershed, which is Comfort Lake, Sunrise River and Comfort Lake. And then the complication is that we're getting water from the city of Forest Lake, our biggest city. It's been undergoing an expansion. It was a little town, back when the district started, and it's just grown over these last several decades into this city, basically. So that's always going to happen. I mean, we're always going to have that kind of challenge as the other cities start expanding and so on. But the point is that we've had a very good system to date of knowing where we're going, knowing what our objectives are, and it takes time. If you look back at the last 2 10-year plans, you can see that from the very beginning, that it was all about Bone Lake area to start out with, in that upper quadrant, which includes not just the lake itself, but what drains into the lake in that Bone Lake area. And
Sure.
Same thing with Forest Lake, the same thing. Moody is actually part of the Bone Lake area. So when we're doing work on Moody, which is in Chisago County, it's actually beneficial to Bone Lake in Washington County. And so
Mhm.
that's the way the water flows, and that's how we're continuing to do it. And it helps you to keep all of these various aspects that we're looking at right now in context, because you can't do everything at one time. You just can't. And so we've got these manageable sub-watersheds that we can focus on for the 5 to 10 years that it takes to actually get each one of them, under control and back to health. And then we have rules and regulations that keep everything new happening. We're basically cleaning up the mistakes of the past.
Sure.
When we come through and do all of these things, and our rules and our regulations for permitting then allow us to control the current land use changes that are occurring, so that we can maintain that water quality improvement that we've reached. So it's not as easy as saying, everything goes into this bucket. When we're focusing on an area, we're actually using any of these groups of areas that we need to, in order to do the best for that sub-watershed. Does that make sense?
100%. So I'm going to make a suggestion here. Is it worth entertaining compartmentalizing aspects of how we do and our strategic planning based on each area instead of based on each, trying to fit them into boxes or categories.
Well, I think we're getting there. Like I said, the focus has to be on that particular area.
Sure.
So you might have an occasional project in another sub-watershed as the need occurs. Because you don't want something degrading during that process. But we're down now, like I said, we're down now to our last sub-watershed areas.
Okay.
And so, the focus is gonna be on that area for the next several years until we get those things that we need to do in that area done. And we're already planning for what I term as district-wide projects. And we've always had that as well, where you have like flood mitigation, climate resiliency, that impacts the entire district.
Sure.
The entire district. And so a lot of the studies that we've been completing recently, the H&H modeling, the inventory of all of our natural assets, the open space areas, that's what's going to feed into that district-wide plan on flood mitigation, climate resiliency, and protection of existing open spaces.
Okay.
We call that our green space
Yeah.
project.
Absolutely. And two questions. Number one is, how many watersheds remain? And you said you're down to your last one or your couple last. What is the what's the name of that one?
Little Comfort and Big Comfort.
Okay.
They are connected underneath Highway 8, so there is some flow that happens, but they are independent lakes.
Okay, great. And what happens when we get, like, how do we know when something was completed based on the previous watersheds, right?
Because we have engineers, we have civil engineers and scientists putting together those plans based on data.
Okay,
So we're collecting data all the time, and then we get really focused when we get into these sub-watersheds with additional monitoring so that we can pinpoint the high pollution areas. We want to start with those so that we can get the big bang for the buck up front and get people seeing actually great results. So.
And Yanni, to kind of answer your question too, I think we know we've achieved the goal when, for example, Bone Lake was delisted from the list of impaired waters. You know, when we achieved that, we said, all right, we finally achieved our goal. But now the trick is sustaining it. And so that means, you know, it's like the circus performer spinning the plates, right? He has plates going everywhere, and you got to keep checking to keep those plates on a stick.
Yeah,
and
that's a very good point, Mr. Bakke, to bring up, because that is the ultimate statewide star, if you will, that you've achieved water quality. But it's also driven, before that, it's driven by the monitoring that we do on an ongoing basis, so that we know that clarity has been reached, those clarity goals that are set by the state are reached. So, yeah, so there's, you know, there's ways to measure all of this.
Yes, fully aware, and I understand and I agree and understand with everything that you're saying. You know, the question was mostly like, then what, right? And it sounds like it is maintenance. And the question is how different is maintenance from like the initial work that is done? Does it still align with everything that's on this list, or is it something else entirely?
I think it gets down to the finer points. You know, you're trying to get the big pollution sources that are really damaging the lakes in quantities. I mean, visible sometimes quantities, but the rest of it is getting down to where we're at now. We talked about the shoreline and how important that is.
Yep.
And that's not something that's as visible, but it is something that does pollute. And so you have to get more, you have to switch kind of how you're approaching it, because it has to be landowner. It's almost like working with the ag areas. You've got to get landowner buy-in to what's happening when they don't maintain a natural shoreline. And so that's where the education, it kind of weaves together, you know, that's where a more intense, education program has to happen.
Yep.
We have to spend more time working with individuals, and so it's not just a community, it's individuals now that we have to go after.
And
But that's
another,
just, yeah, go
if I
ahead.
may, and another factor is the unpredictability of Mother Nature.
Yes,
We're waiting for the floods to come. We know that she can push the ice up on our lake shores and in an unpredictable fashion and create havoc. And so that's part of it as well.
yes, and it's the precipitation changes, which also is Mother Nature, climate. So if you don't maintain some natural spaces, that will help absorb this continued growth in quantity of storms. I mean, we're having fewer storms, but more intense storms, which means more land going into close water bodies, whatever they're close to, streams, rivers, lakes, and so on. So we are still striving for the same outcome, but it's just different as you get past these gigantic earth-moving projects down into this more granular type of project.
Sure. And I would imagine the time, right, or
Mhm.
resources deployed also change and are different as well, right? Just
Of
like
course of course they do.
Okay, so I think I think we'll have better visibility and just, I don't know, aligning on a particular point as we make our way through this.
Mhm.
You know, my opening remarks, like, we're meant to kind of extract something, and it's like, this is it. Water quality is it. Everything comes back to it in some way, shape, or form. It's always going to be a part of what we do. And even some of the things that were mentioned that are in some of these other categories, like, they were all just mentioned between, you know, all three of you just kind of speaking here. So this might be something very different than some of the other ones. Okay. Like, these are high level macro themes that we're consistently moving towards. And I think as we move down, there's going to be some strategies, right? And some more task oriented things that align with the organization, our new building, right? Things of that capacity. But this is all good. Okay. So this is, again, we're staying high level. I'm going to move on from the blue category now. We're going to make our way down to mauve or pink or whatever color that is, for flood mitigation and climate resiliency. We're gonna take a couple minutes. Let's make our way through this individually, and then we're gonna go through the exact same exercise. And hopefully we can start to kind of make our way through this a little pretty quickly here, so everyone has what they need to really digest this and start to put some thought into it independently. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Mhm.
Great.
Well, I've said this before, but I think that we've got the wrong title on this area. These are just things that are happening, flood mitigation. I mean, these are big areas, of course, and climate resiliency, but I would rather see a broader heading on this, as just leaving it as climate resiliency, maybe. And underneath that would be these areas, for flood mitigation, but also green space. And there's probably a couple of other tags that we already have, wetland preservation, all of those things. And we can go down our budget line item and pull those things together under a broader heading, because flood mitigation and climate resiliency are part of this bigger area.
Okay. And because, like, what I'm hearing is, you know, flood mitigation, green space, those are strategies that we're deploying for.
No,
No?
I mean, no, that's not right. Green space is actually, I think, the best category to pin on this area, because all of those other things become part of that green space preservation.
Great. That's perfect. Does everybody else agree with that? that a more macro category would be green space, and everything that's in this category aligns and falls underneath that umbrella.
With some other items added.
Sure, absolutely. Everyone, comments? Yes, no?
I can agree with that. I guess I just need time to cogitate on it a little bit, but yeah, that sounds good.
Under statute, declaring green space is really the only way a watershed district has to deal with land use. And so it becomes very important for us to understand that and to have these other functional things that have to happen under that umbrella.
Can you say that again, Manager Anderson? That's something that was kind of unfamiliar to me.
Well, I've talked about it at meetings many times, but green space is in the very beginning of chapter 103D, and it talks about the purpose of watersheds. So I'll get you the exact link for it if you'd like to look it up. But it's within the first couple of pages of 103D, which is our legislation, our of the law that we operate under.
I just hadn't associated with what we'd talked about green space before to this level. So that's interesting. It's good.
Okay. And there's certainly some more that need to kind of fall under this, right? That are not listed.
There are, and there are line items in our budget, templates, so we can easily pull those together for the next meeting. But I think it helps also, it takes it away from the sub-watershed concept that we've been working in and had to work in. And we're just wrapping up the last of the sub-watersheds, detailed, granular look at what's needed in each of those, and then going more to this district-wide need. Because green space is district-wide, it's not just one particular sub-watershed.
Okay. Great. I mean, I'd just like to point out, right, that like I think we all have a particular language that we speak in regards to how we do this, and it's been highly functional, right, in the past. But even just going through this now, like we're aligning on a language of how we can start to kind of think and compartmentalize and talk about some of this stuff. And again, it's easy to do that in this room in a protected environment, right? That is somewhat siloed, but it's how do we get this to the people that are actually boots on the ground, implementers, part of the staff, etc., and making sure that they are aligned with this as well. So this is all
a lot of this is done by our engineers.
Sure.
Our water experts in this, and they're civil engineers as well. We have to, again, by statute, have a civil engineer for all of these public works that we do as overseers. And so we have to rely on them. And some of these reports that we've been mentioning were done by our civil engineers. And so we've got to get them involved in anything like this. This is something we do on our own.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. And that's good to know. Absolutely. Of this list that's here, and I know there's things that are missing, but of this list, how many or if any of these are in motion currently? Like are
Well,
things
all of them.
that are currently active?
All of them.
All of
In
them.
one degree or another, all of them. We're doing this stuff all the time. We're focusing now on, we just finished this H&H modeling update. And that was to take in account, all these things we've been saying about climate change. But we also wanted to have it more refined before we sat down with our LGU partners, our local government units, so that we had more specifics that we could talk to and not generalities. So, and that's all about planning.
Okay. These are all, Fair to say?
All of this is ongoing. The most recent thing that was completed is number 3, the Run H&H model. That's been done. We're implementing that now.
Well, in certain areas, not the entire district.
No, but it is a district-wide thing, I think is what he's saying.
And
That's-
are we just, we're
yes, it
just
is.
waiting?
Right, but I mean, it's
for data
ongoing,
and
it's
kind of
not-
review?
It's the report that's done. Mike was saying that it's ongoing. It is ongoing. So the report is, why don't you just take that out and just put ongoing?
Great.
It would be, yeah, less confusing, I think, for people just looking at.
Great. Okay, any other comments in regards to any of these on this list? We're gonna move on to the next category. Okay. So we're doing all of these things at any given point. Both of these categories, because everything is ongoing. So
Yes,
everything's a priority, everything's in motion currently. Yes?
oh, yeah, if that was a question, yes, absolutely. There's different degrees for each one, obviously. But it's ongoing. It has to be.
Okay. Education, community engagement. Same format. Take a minute, make your way through it, and then we'll start to go through it as a group.
Education and community outreach, that last item doesn't belong there.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, I think that would be part of governance, but it could even go in the top one, water quality area, but improving municipal infrastructure and urban water management is about water quality.
Okay.
And groundwater improvement, so I would put that up, way up on the top.
Okay.
Box.
Okay. Of this list, what is in motion currently? Something that we are actively working on. All of it?
All of it. I would be careful though about anything to do with communication and marketing is not the same as education and community engagement. So we need to create a new header, I think, for that program, the communication and marketing.
How
And
is,
that's in process right now.
what is the purpose of marketing? Our purpose. What is our why? Why would we deploy a strategy like that?
Because we haven't been doing it in the past, and so we're 25 years old and we've got most of the population that doesn't know who we are and what we've done. And so we need to have that aspect. It's not the same as creating seminars and and education to different individual
But it's
people
still,
within the district.
sure,
But it's more that mass marketing and communication that takes place on a different level. So you're
Yep.
keeping people informed about who we are, what our purpose is on a constant basis, and also the projects that we've done. And having them understand what situations we had before and what they have after. And this, kind of wraps into the water quality, because that's what people see. People see that the lakes are not clean, and they see that they have algae and so on. And this aligns more with state goals for clean water. Because we have a state agency that oversees this whole process. And there are measurable, I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but one of them is the quality of the water. Is it clean, and it meets standards that are set by the MPCA. And streams have to be fully fishable, and lakes as well, but the streams that come into the lakes have a measurement for invertebrates and things that fish feed off of, so we can get all of those, but there, there's different layers that we need to make sure that we're hitting at the state level.
I mean, back to the original kind of point, like, personally, I would argue that marketing is a tool that we're going to use to educate and engage with our community. Is that not a true statement?
That's not a true statement. I mean, it's part of it, but it's not the same as what our community education program is. That's
Sure.
totally different.
Again, yes, they're different initiatives, but it's still, the purpose is to be social, educate, and engage with our community, right? Whether
To
we're
keep it-
educating them on who we
It's,
are and what we've done.
think of it like a newspaper. You're educating the public through giving them the true scenario of what the district is doing on an ongoing and regular basis.
Sure.
That's really what it's like. And newspapers are really different than doing education classes or education seminars. Even though they're reaching out to the public, one's on a very, narrow basis, the other one is on a very broad mass basis.
But what's the purpose of those two things? To educate the public. The median, or how you're doing it, and the group of people you're targeting is irrelevant. We're still, like, I'm challenging this because do we really need a whole nother category that is just focused on, marketing and outreach? Or can
Yes.
this be its own thing? And I'd be curious to hear from anyone else in the room on
Yeah.
that.
Well, to stretch the newspaper story as two different points. Marketing in the newspaper is not about educating the people of what's going on in the community. It's to try to sell something. The thing we're trying to sell is knowledge about the watershed, which is I guess I'm not seeing the distinction. I think our marketing and stuff is education. It's a different form of education than a seminar or going out and talking to somebody one-on-one and bringing them up to speed. But the whole point is to bring people's knowledge so that they understand better, and that is education.
It's a public service announcement is a better analogy on that front. Keeping them informed of the news of the watershed is really what I was getting at, but it is more in alignment, using my phraseology, is with a not an ad, but with a service announcement, which is educational, yes, and it's informative.
Yeah, and I think they both are different and do deserve different line items, right? Because they are different tactics or initiatives that we're deploying. But and again, maybe I'm just not seeing it. I still think the purpose of both of them is to either educate or engage with our community, one way or the other. Like that is the deliverable, the outcome. Like the detail of it will come. And I guess you know, if we have a whole nother kind of bucket here, like simple is best, right? If we can consolidate, that would be ideal. I don't want to force anything that doesn't make sense, but if we really zoom out, I mean, I just, you know, you think about other organizations that are driving their entire marketing initiative is education, right? Is to build awareness about something that they do, something they sell, something they've done, and it would still fall, you know, and it would still fall in that bucket. And that's the
Well, then
same
what-
as going to you know, a convention and doing a presentation. It still falls under kind of that same umbrella, if you
Well,
will.
then why don't we rename this category public education? And
Okay.
then under that can be community engagement and community, not outreach, community. Well, let's not even call it community. Why don't we call it community engagement, which would be the seminars and all of that kind of thing? And then we can just call it, community education.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Is instead of going community education and community engagement, just community education, which is pretty broad, and it should be broad, and it should be able to kind of encompass all of those kind of those tactics that we're either have started or would like to start.
If we're working on alignment, and I believe in the 10-year plan, it's defined as education and outreach.
Okay. That's okay too. I feel like that would also encompass doing seminars, educational events, and also deploying digital marketing tactics, public relation tactics, things of that capacity. It would all fall into that. Do we agree?
I would.
Yeah.
And Manager Baki, can you say how it's stated in the budget one more time for me?
Well, in the 10-year plan, it's
right?
education and outreach.
Great.
Is the heading.
Okay, wonderful.
And then there's a lot that falls under that,
Sure.
which is not mentioned here. You know, there's talk about print and electronic media, training sessions, AIS management, shoreline restoration, monitoring and assessment, signage, students and educators. And if we could, you know, Yanni, I know we're not wordsmithing, but it says support high school science programs. If we could just have it say support school programs, because, you know, it is in the elementary schools and middle schools as well.
Great. Love that. It's a great shift. Okay.
There's a comment that you made in there, Yanni, that keeps sticking back. It would be that a whole concept of creating awareness. And we're trying to do that through so many different venues. You know, maybe that pulls in the marketing and the training sessions and the outreach to the SALT people and all those kinds of things. That's a word that just kind of stuck with me. That creating awareness. It's kind of encompasses all of this stuff.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, you know, again, we want. I do agree with that 100%. And I just, you know, I think we all need to agree whether or not we want to make that shift, because it sounds like 10-year plan, budget, right? There's a lot of consistencies with education and outreach, and just to maintain on the same kind of, you know, the same platform and using the same language, it might be best to maintain.
I'm not lobbying to change the titles. It's just that idea of creating awareness kind of pulled all these pieces together in my mind finally.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that's the why, really, right, behind all of this. To sum it up. Okay.
Well, make it public awareness then.
Okay. Okay, great. Are we, again, this is all still pretty macro. I would imagine, again, I know for a fact that is ongoing develop a comprehensive community water resource education program. Have we developed the program yet, or is that still something that's in the works?
The community education and outreach, or education and outreach has been done. We're on our second year.
So develop a comprehensive community water resource education program. We're on year 2. The plan has been built. We're good on that.
Yes.
Great.
I think we are.
Okay, awesome. Increase public recognition and engagement in district activities.
That's where we need the marketing to come in,
Okay,
and public relations and all of that. And we're in the process of hiring a firm
yeah,
to handle all of that for us.
okay, that's great. That's great. When you typically outsource, like, and this is just an unrelated question, but now you're gonna retain a marketing or PR firm. Do you always go stay local, or do you guys go national in regards to that particular search? I'm just curious.
Local,
Local, okay,
yeah, Minnesota. I
Yeah.
mean, not within our boundary, but Minnesota.
okay,
Well, it's the first time.
I know, but that's what we're talking about, what we've done.
Are you recommending someone, Yanni?
what's that? I mean, I would be happy to if you need it, so you just let me know. I'd be happy to make quite a
I
few.
would not take anybody outside of Minnesota.
I could probably drum up maybe 1 or 2 Minnesota options, but if you needed more than that, it would have to be kind of a national kind of search. So that does limit it, but doesn't count it out. Okay. Enhance interagency communication collaboration with local stakeholders. Currently in process. Do we feel like that's moving? Does it need more attention? Is that a high priority?
Are you talking about which implementing targeted marketing and digital outreach? Is that what
Enhance
you're talking about?
this one right here. Enhance.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interagency communication and collaboration?
Yep.
Well, that's being done through staff, meeting with the LGUs
Okay.
on a regular basis so that we can be informed about projects that they've got coming along. I'm not sure that that belongs here, but it's
Okay.
more of an administrative thing to me.
Yeah. Okay. Local stakeholders. How do we define that? That's not our community. That's something else.
Those are the people that pay the taxes. They're within our boundaries.
Sure. Okay. Got it. Okay. I'm gonna come back to that. And again, that's an ongoing thing, right? That's just that
It
is
will be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
If you're still talking about enhanced interagency, that's ongoing. Yeah, we've been doing that from the beginning.
targeted marketing and digital outreach campaigns. It sounds like we're shopping around right now. The goal is to bring someone in. Is that a 1-year thing, a 5-year thing? Like, what's the goal to have somebody retained, strategy built, and deploying that?
We're in the process right now, but that's the goal. It has been a goal for several years, but now we're at the point where we're getting, we've sent out RFPs and we're getting those
Okay.
interested people, submitting. I think the deadline was last week, Friday, or this week, Friday. Anyway.
Okay. So,
Soon.
and then once we have responses to the RFPs we've put out, like a year, is that fair? Like, that's an urgent thing that will move pretty quickly once that's completed?
Well, we hope so, but I think it is gonna be an ongoing thing. It
Sure.
won't stay the same as the intensity when it starts, but yeah, it has to stay ongoing. We may
Sure.
end up hiring people inside, going down the
Cool.
pike, but
Yep.
but it's an important aspect that we don't want to forget about anymore or lay
Okay.
to the side anymore. We just don't want to do that.
Yep. And if we kind of broke this out, right, as like, hey, it needs to get implemented, it needs to
Mhm.
get started, And then on top of that, once it's implemented, it's leveraging it, right? It's staying on top of it,
Yes.
making sure it's embedded in our workflows and what we do, and we're utilizing it consistently.
Or we use a contract situation, so it doesn't have to always be staff doing it. They'll
Okay.
work with staff, obviously, but we won't have to have a staff person doing it.
Okay.
And we may change that, we
Yep.
may change that to actually hire someone, so that's to be determined long-term. But right now, we need to get something up and running and make up for lost time, so the best way to do that is contract.
Sure. Yep, I support that. Okay. School programs, internships, salt watch initiatives, where does that currently lie? Again, it's something we've been discussing. Has that been deployed? Are we currently doing that? Is that on the, 1 to 5 year kind of horizon here?
We've been doing school programming for quite a few years.
Mhm.
We've only had one person do an internship with us. We have seasonal employees. The salt watch is more of an internal thing that the staff have been doing, but
Okay. Is this like, is the goal to ramp any of that up or just sustain what it's been?
I would say it's evolving.
Yeah,
yeah. I just say it's, yeah.
It's not completed yet, but it's evolving, it's improving. It's, I think that's true with the, most educational programs. They're always looking at ways to improve and find better ways to make it work.
yes, I agree with that.
Okay. So this is one that's a bit more micro, and I would imagine there's tons of kind of these macro resources, right, or initiatives that this would fall under, but expand outreach and marketing to new homeowners. So not just vague, right, deploying public relations or marketing, right, to our community, but targeting new homeowners specifically. Are we currently doing that? Is that on the 1 to 3? Like, give me a timeline associated with that. Do we still need to plan that, figure out what deliverables, method of
I think that comes under the marketing and PR, like we've been talking about, this isn't something, we've all thought about, we should be doing this, but it isn't getting done, and so we want to contract that out for the first time, get a plan, have marketing experts come in and get the story and tell the story of the district's a success, and then parse it out with some experts.
Okay, so I'm
But
going to put that as an action plan / resource under implemented targeted marketing, because really
Yeah.
all that is just a different ICP, right? An ideal customer or ideal client or whatever,
Mhm.
community kind of persona. We're just targeting someone else.
Yeah, the new homeowners, honestly, the discussions I remember are really focused more on people that live on the river or live on the lakes.
Okay.
So that we can get new homeowners in those very critical, right on the water kind of things, settled and have them understand what their role is in maintaining natural shorelines and clean water.
Okay, great. That's great. And when we expand on that, it's, how do we do that? Or is it mailers? Are we targeting realtors, or like, how are we
Well,
ensuring that everyone that buys?
Yeah, we've done realtors, since the beginning. That was something we asked, this organization that we were part of, East Metro Watershed Planning, Education Program, and they started those seminars with realtors
Okay,
in the East Metro. So, that's something that, that's ongoing.
sure. Okay. And do we have deliverables that the realtors are using to new homeowners that are buying land on lakes or that have shore access?
I've never seen anything myself through that organization, but that's why we want to do it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, wonderful. Okay. All right, let's see if we can kind of. All right, we got about 8 minutes here. I'm gonna kind of just do a broad kind of stroke on some of this. You will all receive this via email. My ask is that we just spend a little bit of intentional time privately going through this, understanding it, adding, subtracting, consolidating. A lot as we make our way down, you're going to see that there are things on kind of different, like I said, different parallels in regards to macro, micro, immediate, non-immediate. Okay, and I know everything is important, but I guess my only fear, and maybe it's not validated, is that it's a lot to manage. This is a lot going on at any given point. And it sounds like we have third parties and contractors to lean on to kind of assist us with this, but we haven't really gotten to any of the internal stuff. This is all, this is the bulk of who we are and what we do and the impact we make on our community so far. Okay, strategic planning and governance. I'm open to suggestions in regards to changing this if we see fit in regards to the title, but I mean, let's just take a minute, run through it and just kind of grasp exactly what's a part of this.
Well, I think this is one that I need to spend more time on.
Yeah.
I don't have any suggestions for you off the top of my head on this one, but there are some things, I've got notes at home that I keep in a little manual, so I will have to have more time on this. I can't do it
Yeah.
tonight.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Okay. Got monitoring, data-driven decision-making. Again, don't know if that's the best category for some of this stuff. I know that really aligns with one of our values and how we approach. I guess the suggestion was that, monitoring and data-driven decision-making is probably, a strategy or a tactic or a part of our workflow and how we operate that could probably align with everything.
With what?
With almost
Well-
everything, right? Like it's all
Well,
we use.
it's one of the core drivers of scientific management.
Yeah.
We have to do this in order to make sure that the progress we've made on the lakes is being maintained. And the only way to stay on top of that is to do this monitoring.
Sure. Now, it's when we do monitoring, are we looking at it in a more holistic manner? Or like, is that how we process this? Or is it more so aligned with each project or each initiative? Right? It's just a part of.
No, it's pretty much the same. I mean, lakes are different, water bodies are different. So you
Sure.
might have to accommodate some tweaking somewhere, but basically the whole point is to get the same data points in all of the water sources that we have.
Yep.
And we know from years of doing this now what our lakes should be.
Sure.
And we've also done, one of our missions from the very beginning was to get the water bodies as close as possible to pre-development conditions.
Sure.
And so the programs are developed to make sure that we understand that and what took us off balance, what took us down the wrong way and cleaning all of that up. And Mike can talk to you about sequential monitoring. I mean, we do the basic stuff, which gives us the baselines from year to year. So we can spot if there's any new hotspots showing up that we thought we had fixed from the
Sure.
past, or any new ones that have come along from land use changes. And we do, when we're looking for something that granular, we use a different type of monitoring, very focused monitoring to find those sources.
Okay. So it does sound like it needs its own kind of category because we do have kind of a broad, right, predefined way to do this in a holistic manner, but we also.
It's the basis of telling the public how we're keeping their water clean, or
Sure.
when there's a problem and we need to focus on that. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, that sounds great. Project operations and maintenance. This was one that had some commonalities amongst everybody. the staff side as well as from the board. Left a couple extra slots there. Regulatory is one that didn't really come up.
What,
ahead.
hold on just a sec, hold on just a second. The project operations and maintenance.
Yeah.
That always has to be done with the oversight of our engineers. So staff does a lot of the day-to-day stuff or week-to-week stuff, but it always has to be reviewed and there, even in the design of how it's done, has to include our civil engineers. So somehow in that area, you've got to make reference to that.
Okay. Regulatory, ditch law, these two candidly weren't really mentioned from a lot of the responses that I received from board members. This came from, you know, just kind of the staff mentioning, like, there are things that are kind of the non-negotiables that we need to always adhere to, and they should have their place annually, every 5 years, every 10 years, et cetera, as we kind of go through something like this. And then the last one that we don't really have any initiatives associated with it, but it's something to kind of mull around, and I'll leave it on here and kind of, I'll give it a color and extract it out, but it's staff, HR, recruiting. It's retaining our staff. It's recruiting more staff based on capacity constraints. It's providing staff with clear trajectories in regards to their own careers within what they're doing, but being best in class in regards to how we kind of manage the HR side of it. That's not something that was mentioned much, but I would imagine, like, we need people to be able to execute our vision, and it might be worth talking about that or thinking about some things that we should consistently have our thumb on that we can easily transfer or delegate right through this process to staff to make sure that we're doing our part there. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to say on the ditch law, I mean, there's other laws that we have to abide by. You know, we're a government agency,
Yeah.
special unit of government. So it's not just these one things that randomly, you know, pop up.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna think about that. I'll probably have some comments coming back to you about making that a little broader than what we're seeing here. It
Yep,
makes
I
it
love
look like that's the only thing we have to worry about, and it's not.
No, I understand, and again, it's there for that purpose. So I'm glad we're on the same page. If you have something more broad that would encompass something
Yeah.
meaty there, then that's all. That's perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions, feedback, concerns from anyone currently right now? Okay, great. So just to confirm, this will come to you via email. Okay, it will be a working document. You can make a copy of it and easily turn it into something, or you can just kind of, you know, beat it up and make changes and move things around yourself. That would probably be the best approach. If you know, can get that done prior to our next meeting, so it comes back to me. So again, I can take the time to really kind of bring this together so we can just consistently expedite this. That would be probably in everyone's best interest. But I mean, if it's not on here, it doesn't mean it's not important, right? And if there's, again, if there's things that that need to be shifted, this is for you. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, speaking the same language, and create something that's both actionable, but also impactful. Okay. Let's see.
Are you gonna send us, is this done in Excel? Is that the
It's a
format?
Google Sheet. Yeah, it's a Google Sheet.
Okay.
Is everyone okay with Google Sheet format? Or I can also convert it to a table in a Word doc, or, you know, a Google Doc, whatever is easier. Some people aren't a fan of kind of the Excel format, but I am curious. Any strong feelings one way or the other?
Doesn't matter to me at all.
Great.
I can absorb any of them.
Wonderful.
I'll try to. I'm used to doing Excel, but I do have Google stuff on my computer too.
When is our next meeting?
Yes, let's see here. If we continued our current cadence, it would be the 18th. We do not have anything scheduled. Emily, thoughts on that?
Does conflict with the Citizen Advisory Committee meeting that is in our conference room from 5 to 6 p.m. on the 18th. If we started at 6, they usually wrap up within an hour, but the conference room is just double booked.
Okay.
Can we make it the 25th? Or do you want to keep it on an every 2-week basis? You want to stay on Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, Tuesdays would be ideal. I can do a Wednesday as well. Like if Wednesday, let me just confirm this before I make any promises here. I could not do the 19th actually.
I think Chris said that Wednesdays don't work for him.
Okay. Thursdays is also open. I could do Thursday the 20th, or we can push it to the following week and do that Tuesday. It's up to everybody.
It's much better for me.
Okay, 25th, let's make it the 25th. That gives us time to go through everything. It'll work better for Mike. I think that'll work better. Steve isn't coming back until the 18th from Florida. So let's make it the 25th.
Okay,
Does that,
great.
does that work with Doug and Dave who are present?
Yeah, that'll work
Okay.
for me.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you. Manager Baki, you too?
Yeah, I'm not sure at this point. My schedule's changing, but I'll sure make it if I can.
Okay. All right, thank you. I did see that chat that you gave us, Emily, about finding if I can just look at that before you send it out to make sure.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
send it to
thank
you right
you.
now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone. Good night.
Okay.
Yep.
motion.
No, it's a
Okay.
special meeting.
We don't have a quorum either to vote.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you do.
There's three. There's three of us. There's
So we
three of
have
us. No,
quorum?
it's a special meeting, singular topic. So
Oh,
if there's no other response anybody wants to make or comments, I will declare the meeting closed. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.